If you're a guest wishing to address the commission with a public comment, you will need to sign in and pick up an information sheet. Do we have that, Vivian? Okay, okay. Most of the commissioners are present. Commissioner Cheek is out of town in Spring Gate and regrets to be here. Just want us to pass his regrets, and also Commissioner West won't be able to attend due to family illness. To open our meeting, we want to offer, as always, our land acknowledgement. And, well, we don't have a screen today, but just listen to me. And I'm going to do my best with pronunciation. Metro Arts stands and holds a space on the unceded and sovereign lands on the Cherokee, East and Yuchi and Shawnee peoples who have stored it for generations. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contribute their energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. We acknowledge we are all standing on ancestral lands, and we honor the thousands of enslaved African peoples who live where physically and whose lives were physically and spiritually stolen. We pay respect to elders past and present. Metro Arts invites you to join in our commitment in getting to know our Native communities in more meaningful ways in alignment with our restorative arts practice. I'm gonna then now move to a public comment. Vivian, you said we have?
Yes, we have 12 people for public comment. The first person I have up is Nicole Williams. And as Ms. Williams is coming up, everyone has 2 minutes. I will let you know at the 1 minute marker, and then I will let you know at the 30-second marker as well.
You said we have 16? How many people said?
12.
Okay. Okay, and we have the total for the fraction should be no more than 20 minutes. Okay, so to extend it, should I just, we're extending it. You go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So I just wanted to start this meeting off by pointing to a couple of issues that I think are inherent in the calling of this meeting. Article 8 of your commission's bylaws, so your governing documents, state that special meetings may, upon proper notice, be held at any time and any place and may be called by the chair, or the secretary shall call such meeting at the request of any 8 members of the commission. I would love to know who called the meeting. I have reason to believe it was not the chair who called the meeting. I also have reason to believe that commissioners have been communicating about commission business outside of a publicly noticed meeting in violation of the Open Meetings Act. So that's an issue. The agenda for this meeting was put up on Thursday with about 48 business hours to go until the meeting, and then changed on Friday. I would encourage the commission to take all of this information into account, as any actions you take today could be subject to legal challenge. I also want to remind you all that you do not supervise the staff. Article 3 of the bylaws state the executive director shall be delegated responsibility for the employment and supervision and removal of professional and clerical staff. The commission does not supervise staff directly. And basically, I just want to ask a question, like, is this really how y'all want to operate? Even if it's not legally suspect, which I contend that it is, it's not right what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you came in here to, like, do good governance or whatever. Tell me that this is good governance. Thank you.
30. Next, we have Christina Hall.
I cede my time to Lydia
Lydia Youssef is next on. Give me 1 second, Lydia. Your time starts now.
Daniel, I'm sorry white supremacists thought it appropriate to question why racism caused you to take sick leave, but did not ask the more relevant question as to why a white man who single-handedly has opened up a big lawsuit against the city is still on this commission and able to vote. Why he can lie on the record multiple times about his intentions, but he's still here. Or why Commissioner Carol McCoy has zero idea of how things work at Metro Arts, but is allowed to continue to derail meetings while artists suffer and bring up topics like micro-organizations. I myself, having been one of the founders of a micro-organization that local grant makers trusted, honored, and have built up to the organization it is with 2 staff members and 12 direct programs. I'm sorry that you're a brown man in this white supremacist city, that you have been demonized and dehumanized and dragged through the mud as these white people are allowed to harm community members left and right. I'm sorry that this fight comes down to people of color who make up 50% of the taxpayer base in Nashville, and only getting 20% of arts funding this year is what this fight is about. How dehumanizing. I want you to know that you have been a success. No other Metro Arts director, all white before you, got the mayor to commit to 1% of the budget for arts. No other director got Metro Council to give Metro Arts more funding to artists in decades. No other director listened to the community, held a democratic process that was rooted in equity that did not include white people controlling the funds for people of color. No other director went down from the lofty towers of Metro to help get the word out for the application and get a historic number of BIPOC to interact and have faith in Metro Arts again. You did everything right, and instead of wasting 6 months with Metro Legal and Finance's distractions and mafia government, we should have spent time learning from you and creating templates for every other Metro department to follow, to be accountable to taxpayers and to disperse funds equitably. As a director myself, I know that every day I make mistakes. I forget to send out the agenda to a meeting. I forget to return a phone call. I get into conflicts with community members. That is human. My own board would not dehumanize me the way this commission has you. They step in and they help. I want to echo what every Nashvilleian knows. You did nothing wrong. You fought racism. You dared to sit in the front of the bus, and they're going to arrest you for it. You put your neck out on the line for us. You sacrificed your reputation, your job security, your sanity, your children's financial stability, time with your children and friends, money and lawyering up to defend yourself against racism like the other Metro directors of color have had to do. And they want to crucify you for the civil disobedience.
1 minute.
In keeping up with our shared Christian traditions, because today is the start of Lent for my tradition, I want to say to you, for every crucifixion, there is a resurrection. For every drop of blood of the martyrs, the empire crumbles. Another way, after the darkness, there comes the dawn. There is no loss for those who are on the side of truth, only gain. As they double down, they show their hand, and the truth is magnified. You have opened up the door for this movement,
30
sacrificing
seconds.
yourself, and I promise, as you have fought for us, so Nashville will fight for you. Thank you, Daniel.
Next, we have Ashley. Yes. If you could pronounce your last name for me.
Batchelder. It's like 2 words I tell everyone.
Thank you. Your time starts now.
Thank you. I'm Ashley Batchelder. I serve as the Director of Policy and Research at the Metro Human Relations Commission, and I'm also the primary author of the Title VI fact-finding report that we released last week at our commission meeting. By now, I trust that all commissioners are aware of the allegations in the complaint, which focus on the historic vote that this commission made in July of last year, followed by its abrupt reversal the following month. The Metro Code empowers MHRC to investigate complaints of discrimination and misconduct by Metro employees and officials, and to propose actions and legislations to lessen and eliminate discrimination. This is central to our mission of protecting and promoting the dignity of all Nashvilleians. This is who we are as a department. Following our rules and procedures, the MHRC engaged in a thorough and good faith investigation. We interviewed 14 of 15 arts commissioners, several impacted artists and staff members.
1 minute.
We reviewed legislation, past meetings, and collected background information from a number of sources. We engaged independent legal counsel to help us with the legal questions at hand. 1 week ago, we released our findings and determination of probable cause of discriminatory actions. We believe that Metro Legal's claim of unconstitutionality in the grant process last year lacks robust analysis. Our report also details important context and information that shows how decisions were made and the discriminatory outcomes that resulted. Our report is available online for the public and commissioners. Our commission voted unanimously to hold a public hearing. Let me be clear. The MHRC is interested in solution-oriented conciliation. We believe that we can work together to find a solution. We ask that the commissioners and members of the public support our public hearing and to continue to work toward finding solutions that are fair and just. Thank you.
Next, we have Alana Anderson.
I'll be ceding my time to Sangeeta, who's next on the list.
And next, we have Sangeeta. Your time starts now.
Hi, my name is Sangeeta Ekambram, and I'm a member of Arts Equity Nashville and one of the complainants on the Title VI complaint filed with the Metro Human Relations Commission last fall. Last week, MHRC came out with their fact-finding report, which you just heard about, which brought up much needed evidence about and the clarity about the role of Metro Arts Commission and Metro Legal in the August 2023 reversal of the July vote for more equitable funding. Having witnessed several tactics used to skew the clarity of this evidence and the long-standing issues at hand, such as deflecting responsibility and selective forgetfulness, and now resorting to even more egregious tactics, let this comment serve as a reminder of several things. If your argument continues to be that equitable funding is happening too soon, former Commissioner Powell reminds us in the fact-finding report that it's been an ongoing conversation for the last 3 years. Some people may say it was sprung up, but it's not, unquote. If you're tempted to deflect blame onto Daniel Singh's leadership for causing division in the arts community, we remind you to look no further than such on-the-record, disparaging, racist, and classist remarks by such commissioners as Will Cheek and Carol McCoy, and to the simple fact that, at least in rhetoric, Metro Arts has recognized funding disparities for years. I mean, that's why things like CARE exist. And that Daniel Singh was specifically hired to address these issues, and he did a darn good job and has already opened so many doors for so many artists that hadn't seen funding before. If anyone is tempted to believe that many large arts organizations care about equity because they hire BIPOC, we are here to remind you that these same organizations do not hesitate to directly collude or overtly and implicitly support racist tactics such as weaponizing ungrounded interpretations of affirmative action to deliberately cause harm to marginalized communities of color. If you're tempted to defend the rescinding of the July 2023 vote as simply following the law, we are here to remind you of Attorney Mel Green's conclusion after a historically and legally grounded interpretation of the rulings on affirmative action under Title VI, that the August revote now opens up the Arts Commission and Metro Legal to greater liability. And in case you're tempted to believe that the status quo is acceptable to the majority of actual artists, the ones that are producing the artistic labor, we're here to remind you that they are becoming increasingly aware of all this activity and that they have no doubts in their minds about their rights to public funds and that equity must happen today and not tomorrow.
Next, we have Nivhan Singh. And I apologize if I butchered that. Your time starts now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Davidson Singh, former employee of Nashville Repertory Theater and Tennessee Performing Arts Center. I stand before you to highlight a pressing issue in our arts community. Daniel Singh, like many BIPOC administrators in the arts, has been hired under the banner of diversity and inclusion, yet constrained in his work. This is a systemic issue where BIPOC arts administrators are hired only to be manipulated into undermining directors striving for equity in the arts landscape in Nashville. In my 4 years of community engagement, I've observed large arts organizations preferring to engage with communities historically funded by affluent patrons. Why do they monopolize state funds while smaller organizations struggle? At TPAC, my former employee, I've witnessed resistance to genuine inclusion. I was told by Senior Director Kristen Dare Horsley, "We didn't hire you to be a voice for people of color," while this very sentiment was explicitly in my job description. This resistance is indicative of a deeper problem. Diversity has become a checkbox. Look at the turnover of BIPOC and queer staff and board members at these organizations and ask if they deserve to hoard funds. It's time to move beyond tokenism. Hiring BIPOC managers and artists for promotional materials, including inclusion in your mission statements, is not enough. We demand more than just a seat at the table. We need a bigger table. Shame on those who would hold white supremacist buzzwords against people like Daniel Singh and organizations like Arts Equity Nashville, who advocate for meaningful change.
30 seconds. Next, we have Joy Stiles.
Councilperson Joy Stiles.
And your time starts now.
Thank you very much. Director Singh, thank you for that correction. The last meeting that I attended, commissioners, Metro Legal rudely referred to me as an audience member. I am a council member. I worked hard. I knocked doors. I was elected. I'm allowed to be here. I'm also allowed to speak. So when you introduce me, I am a council person, first and foremost. What I have watched over the last few months since July has been horrific. I have been disrespected by Metro Legal today and at the last commission meeting, and I can tell you that is unacceptable. I feel there's confusion as to who you represent and when. It's certainly a conversation that will continue with colleagues and other council staff. My focus today is that we fund the artist. It's the only thing that I care about. Artists are starving, and I don't mean that in a fun way. They need the funds in order to do the work, to create art, and to provide programming for all of our constituents. We, council members, appointed you. The mayor may have put your name first, but we voted on you for you to be here. We fought for funding last year to be distributed equitably. It is on the record. It is part of the amendment of our budget. I would like to give more money to Metro Arts. All of these shenanigans aside, we have underfunded this department. We have done wrong by Metro Arts, period, for decades. We need to make it right so we don't have to do Hunger Games anymore. But we also need to understand that when we tell you what it is that we're voting for, to make sure that it happens. That is my request. Funding be released. When you all get funds, you distribute them equitably. Thank you very much for your time.
Next, we have on the list Terry Vo, Councilman. And your time starts now.
Great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, commissioners and guests. My name is Terry Bowe, and I represent District 17 proudly. And today, I just want to remind everyone that, you know, the priority should be our artists and our local arts. And, you know, as a reminder, I know we have a lot of new commissioners here, but with the equity statement, I want to read this out because I think we need to remember to keep things focused and centered. And, you know, part of the equity statement says, that Metro Arts acknowledges that we hold ourselves accountable for acknowledging that equity does not currently exist in the arts. We commit to exposing and unraveling it through our own leadership, practices, and policies. We commit to holding up examples and practices that facilitate equity in those artists and creators who are equity champions. There are so many artists in here that are fighting for that, and I really hope that as commissioners, you all will be the example that our city needs to see, that we can turn this around, and that when we are faced with challenges, that we, instead of dividing and being growing further apart, that we actually listen to one another, and we listen and see the historical allocations of these funds that you can read in the MHRC report, and do better by our artists, do better by our people of our city, and do better as leaders. And I just really implore you to remain focused, and let's release the funds for the artists. Thank you so much.
Next, I have Jacob, Coupon Pin, Councilman. Sorry. Your time starts now.
Thank you, commissioners and guests. I'm Councilmember Jacob Coupon. Excuse me. I heard about this situation on the campaign trail last summer and kind of filed it away, assuming that it would be an issue that was resolved by the time I took office. And then last fall, I learned about it a little more and said, well, I'm settling in. I'll wait. This will be resolved by January. We're still here. I have spent 4 years working in the music industry. I've worked with a lot of artists that are trying to make ends meet, that are struggling with how to live here, how to function here, how to be in this city. And at the end of the day, this is about funding artists. That's why we're all here, is to support the arts. This is a mess. We know it's a mess. There's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts. We've got to figure out what's going on. We've got to get to a solution. We've got to build a better system. But the artists shouldn't suffer because we don't have our stuff in order. And so I'm here advocating for release of funding. If we've promised one group, we've promised another group, maybe there's more money. Maybe we need to figure out how to raise the funds and raise what we're giving to our artists. But making them suffer should not be the answer. I heard earlier today from a filmmaker who made a movie that was supposed to be seen by the widow of the person who that movie was about. The widow passed away before she could see that movie because we have not funded these artists. So we are Music City. We are the Athens of the South. People come here for our arts. We should fund our arts at 1%. We should make the pie bigger. We should make the table bigger. And we should release the funding to the people who need it the most as quickly as possible with an accountable timeline
30 seconds.
as fast as possible. Thank you so much.
Now I have James Lauderdale.
Yes, you're my time for next speaker.
And the last person I have on the list is Kelly.
Can we give 2 minutes to Princella from him, and then I'll take my time?
Yes, you might.
Okay.
Time starts now.
My name is Princella Smith. I'm a local artist, so I was asked to come and give my story today. I think sometimes, I used to work in politics. I'm on my 3rd life. So I think sometimes in politics we forget that there are people involved. I think the councilman I met today, he told the story about one of the film projects that was not completed in time enough for the widow to see the story. So that was my film project. The film is Walk in the Light. I've got the shirt on. It's an animated short film about a blind man named Raymond Washburn who saved 5 people in the Oklahoma City bombing. Raymond was a member of the Yuchi tribe of Native Americans, a very lesser known tribe of Native Americans. And what's fascinating about me being in Tennessee is that you can find Yuchis in Tennessee and Oklahoma. So there is a connection to this story. Again, I am a face of what these people are talking about. Thank you all, by the way, for the work that you do. Some of you I'm just meeting. It's encouraging because artists, we're like athletes. I also played college basketball at one point, and we need to be cheered on. We need encouragement. And what happened when I was approved for funding and then didn't get funding is I felt like I stood on a basketball court and they said, at center, 6 foot tall, standing at 6 foot tall from Wynne, Arkansas, number 52, Princella Smith. And they introduced me and I ran onto a home court and my home crowd booed me. That's what that sounded like. I'm used to doing work and being encouraged for it. And it's sad to me as an artist that having been embraced by the community, having been embraced by many artists who are not here today, who loved Mary Lou, Raymond's widow, so much that they actually created some art for her, for me to take to her funeral a few weeks ago. It's sad that I'm not able to finish the project because I don't have the funds from the place that's supposed to be supporting me. So it's not about I know we're talking a lot about race and politics, and we make this stuff political. I'm a person. Raymond was a person. Mary Lou was a person. Artists who aren't here are people. I urge you guys, we don't care about your political squabbles. I'm just trying to make my movie. Okay, thanks.
And that is all for public comment.
Thank you. From I could grant it the 2 minutes.
Did she use the full 4 minutes? Because he used her time, and then she had a minute and 25 left. Okay, so can I still speak since I'm on the list?
Okay, hold on.
I don't want to take nobody's time. Oh, no, you're okay.
How much was left? 1 minute.
A minute and 25.
For the next speaker that she see the sign up. Yeah,
It was
so
originally.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, wait, so how much time?
I'll let you know when to start.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kelly. I am not an artist or from an arts org, but I do care deeply about what happens in our city. The reason I am now following this situation is because I have watched a pattern over and over and over of our legal department, who is supposedly there to, protect us from legal situations.
1 minute.
They work for our government and for the powerful and rich people in this city. They do not work for the people of Nashville. Even you all, you've ceded your autonomy for a legal memo, not even a legal opinion, and it is y'all's decision. They allegedly insinuated that you needed to change that because then you would be at risk of lawsuit. Well, now you're actually at a higher risk of lawsuit if you believe Mel Fowler Green and other civil rights attorneys' legal opinion. So what I want us to take away from this situation is not that it's big orgs versus small orgs, black versus white, or any of that. It is about a legal department, a finance department, who have multiple ties with large arts organizations coming in and taking the autonomy of the commissioners who were voted on by our city council, who were put there by the people in this room. So I want to be very clear about where the power actually lies, and that anyone from the legal department does not have the authority to come in and undermine every single person in this room's opinions and our entire council body. Thank you.
And before your time starts, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Jennifer Webb, and I represent District 10. And if anybody knows the makeup of the council, I'm one of the conservative people on the council. But what I'm here today to say is fair is fair, right is right, and wrong is wrong. We gave our word to people of color or to the BIPOC that we would fund them an extra $2 million. I'm asking today for you to release those funds to those artists. It's the right thing to do. We have to lay our party lines aside sometimes and say, we were taught right and wrong, and today is to do the right thing and release the funds to the artist. Thank you.
That now concludes public comment.
No, thank you, everybody from the public that made the comments. We're going to move into the item D, outside counsel with the HR report to the commission. Is the lawyer here? Look to the right here. Yes. Yeah, the podium, please.
Okay, are we good? Good afternoon, everyone. Commissioners, my name is Luther Wright, Jr. I'm a practicing attorney here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm the office managing shareholder at Ogletree Deacons. I would also add that I'm born and bred in Nashville, proud graduate of Hunters Lane High School, 3rd class. This community means a lot to me, and I was tasked with conducting an HR investigation regarding some specific allegations involving Director Singh. You all have been presented with the report that I've worked on over the past approximately 1 month. I want to give you some context and sort of walk you through what I have provided to you, and I'll be happy to answer any general questions that you have. I've been a practicing labor and employment attorney for the past 25 years. About 3 years into my practice, I started focusing in this area, and I've done a number of workplace investigations. Also helped organizations, including Metro, with what I call climate assessments to get a sense of what employees are feeling in particular departments, and I've done that on a number of occasions for Metro. Just to give you some context as to my investigation, sort of thought process and philosophy. Generally, when I approach a situation like this, I take the particular task. You all are aware of the memo that you received regarding the specific investigation into allegations of workplace misconduct under Metro Policy 3.1-3, workplace conduct. Anytime that I conduct an investigation, I think first the thing that I have to do is to make certain that I give context as to the background circumstances, and I did that in this particular report. Then I turn to those specific complaints that have been lodged and detail those, give an accounting of all of the individuals, at least by number, that I talked to, because the individuals that I spoke with didn't want to be identified, understandably so. Then I turn specifically to those allegations that I believe are not necessarily a violation of a policy, but are more complaints about general management and leadership style. And then I address those specific allegations and concerns that I find to be in violation. And then in this particular investigation, because I thought it made sense, I also provided the concerns that were technically outside the scope of what I was asked to investigate, but I think are relevant for your consideration, including concerns expressed by Director Singh about his treatment. So that's what you have in the document before you. I thought it was important to start with the background and context, because I believe without all of that background and context, we wouldn't be here. And there likely wouldn't have been a need for any type of investigation. I reported to you that there's a heaviness involved with being a staff member at Metro Arts. And I felt that heaviness as part of this investigation, and I experienced that heaviness as we talked about some of these issues. There is, and we've heard it today in this room, a lot of disappointment from not only BIPOC artists, not only those folks who care about BIPOC artists, but folks in the artist community in general. And there's a heaviness that comes when you're one of the individuals in Metro Arts that's designed or looked at being talked about in the press as someone who plays a role one way or another in whether funds are released or not. And I think you can't understand the report that I made without first starting there and saying that that is a real part of this process. I believe that that heaviness is the product, as I said in my report, of misalignment, confusion, disagreement associated with the resignation of a number of commissioners. And more importantly, although I did not intend to go heavily into the distinction between anti-racism work and diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility work, I felt compelled to address that in my report because I think that's part of what's driving this. There is a distinction between anti-racism work and diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility work. And it was apparent to me after all of the investigatory interviews that I conducted and reviewing other materials, including a prior commission meeting on, I think it was February 15th, 2024, that folks aren't on the same page about that. And it was clear to me that from Director Singh's perspective and the perspective of certain staff members and probably certain commissioners, he was tasked with operationalizing anti-racism. But it was also clear to me that from the perspective of some commissioners and perhaps even some staff members, that he was tasked with a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility mandate to improve historic dysfunctionality. And that starts the tension and I think the confusion around all of these issues that I think led us to this point where it was even necessary for me to conduct an investigation. As I said in my report, and I won't go into all of the particulars unless you think it's necessary, there were a number of allegations that I think were deposited with Human Resources by staff members that I think are complaints about what I would call general management decisions and leadership style. Those I contended are not violations of a Metro policy. It may be something for you all as commissioners to take into consideration and decide what you think about certain decisions that Director Singh made about hiring a particular consultant. Addressing concerns, as I said in my report, about accessibility or inaccessibility of Director Singh. Reasonable minds can differ about when he responded to a phone call or to an email or to a particular situation. And those are issues that I think should be addressed outside of this particular investigation and report. I was tasked with letting you know whether or not I thought there were certain conduct based on the allegations that were presented that violated the workplace conduct policy. And in the report, I concluded there was one close call and two situations that I thought were a violation of that policy. And I'll address those before talking about the other concerns, including the concerns that were raised by Director Singh that I think you need to hear. The violation that I revealed in my report was a November 29th call that was recorded between Director Singh and two staff members, where in the opinion of this investigator, the conduct in that conversation violated the workplace conduct policy to the extent that Director Singh threatened to report an employee to HR who continued to ask questions that, at least in the interpretation of the investigator, were legitimate. I also noted in the report that it was obvious in listening to that recorded call that lasted for approximately 35 minutes that Director Singh was frustrated, understandably, from the heaviness that I talked about a moment ago. And that conversation kind of revolved around all of the issues that we've been talking about here today. The second violation that I found in my investigation was a direction, I refer to it as the directive in my report, for staff members not to have conversations with other Metro departments or the press. And while not the intent, and this is what I said in my report, I don't think the intent of that direction was to create a workplace where people felt intimidated. I think the impact of that direction certainly violates the workplace conduct policy. And I think Director Singh's intent certainly was to prevent all of the things that we see happening now. But I think that direction probably went too far and had perhaps an unintended chilling effect and leading staff members to believe that they should not have communications with other Metro departments, even if they felt like they had personal experiences and things that needed to be reported or to seek clarification from other departments about certain aspects of their job. And what I said was a close call in my report. Those conversations were around, at least in the opinion of this investigator, anti-racism work. And that's why I noted at the beginning of the report that I think the failure to distinguish between those two led to some conversations that I think were interpreted in a way that would have, if you interpret those conversations in a particular way, violated the workplace conduct policy. And so the distinction that I made in my report was this. I think general allegations in the workplace, or calling someone a racist or saying that someone is a racist in terms of general conversation, would be something that potentially violates the workplace conduct policy. But I think when one is having conversations about anti-racism work and having conversations about whether or not someone is wedded to a racist ideology, historic system, funding mechanisms, that those conversations are part of the difficulty of doing that type of work. And those conversations are hard, and those conversations are not easy. And as I note in my report, I trained in that space, so I know the importance of the distinction between the two. And I know how difficult those conversations are, because anti-racist or anti-racism work is not easy. And the conversations around that are not easy. And they sometimes become unintentionally personal and divisive. So I didn't find in this particular circumstance that those conversations violated the workplace conduct policy. And I called it a close call is because I know that Director Singh has a history in those areas and could have better calibrated for those conversations. And while I think that's perhaps a legitimate criticism, it's not a policy violation. The last part of my report, as I said, addressed some issues that I thought the commissioners needed to know about, including specific concerns from Director Singh in terms of his treatment, especially in light of all of the issues that are going on with the funding questions. I noted those concerns in my report, happy to discuss any of them. Obviously, there have been conversations about how people were paid, how consultants were paid. I listed some of those concerns that were raised that I thought were beyond the scope of my investigation. I also talked in my report about a chaotic workplace and noted that some of the chaos in the workplace existed well before Director Singh ever became employed by Metro. And there are concerns and criticisms about whether he fixed those issues, made them better or made them worse. Those are conversations that one could have, and I think that's a conversation that the commissioners need to have outside the scope of this investigation. But I thought it was important that I bring those concerns to your attention. And I also thought in the last part of my report, it was important that I bring, at least from this investigator's perspective, the concerns that Director Singh articulated. The feeling of being scapegoated and taking on the responsibility for decisions that he did not make. The belief that certain staff members and other individuals are being weaponized against him to discredit him. And the general concerns about not feeling like he's received adequate support from this commission, including and specifically around this issue of distinguishing between anti-racism work and diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility work. And the failure, at least as reported to me and confirmed by a couple of people, that there really hasn't been a lot of training around the distinction between the two and understanding of what this commission is taking on if it is indeed doing anti-racism work. And I thought as part of this process, it was necessary that I bring those concerns to the attention of the commissioners for further consideration. So I'm happy to answer any general questions. It's my understanding that Director Singh will have an opportunity to provide a response to that report and any particularized findings that he takes issue with. And I think I already have it on my calendar to come back to the extent that there are any other questions that need to be asked after he's had a legitimate and understandable opportunity to respond.
Are there any questions within the commissioners?
I have a question, or I don't even know if it's even directed at you. It's more of a comment. I'm not sure we even know what questions to ask. And the reason I say that is because we got your memo less than 24 hours ago. And we are just now really, I read it, but we're just now really hearing a lot of the background. This entire commission is fairly new. I've been on just under 11 months. There's 4 or 5 other people who just got here yesterday, right? And so it is a learning curve for us, yes, but I almost want to apologize to the people in the room because our mission is to drive an equitable and vibrant community through the arts. And essentially we're having a staff meeting right now. And that's not to you, that's not, I don't even know who I'm addressing that to, but it would almost be laughable if it wasn't so serious and we're dealing with taxpayer dollars and people's livelihood. And I'm almost a little embarrassed that this is where we are. Essentially dealing with people with different personalities, fragile egos, and varying leadership skills, because that's really what this is. And I'm not doing this for a clap or a response. I just thought I needed to say that on the record. And I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to me maybe, I don't know. And I don't know what question to ask. This was a wonderful report. You did a wonderful job. And I commend you for doing the investigation and gathering all the information. It's a wonderful memo, but we've got to be better than this. We do. Because you know, and that really wasn't to you. I just feel I just needed to say that because the public comment was artists saying we need the money, and then the next thing is this staff meeting, essentially, and it just doesn't sit right with me, and I don't even know who should address that or if anybody should, but just let that sit with your spirits. That's all.
I'm prepared to give you a response, at least from my perspective. My understanding was that one of the impediments to artists getting paid was completing this process. So I've worked as quickly as I could, concluding investigations on March 6th and turning around something this weekend when my best friend's father, and prayers and shout outs to him, is in the hospital. But I said it's important to this community for me to finish what I was tasked with to help in the process. So I did that as soon as I could. I cleared my schedule to be here today. I've cleared my schedule to be here again to do all that I can to make sure that I'm doing what I was tasked with for the betterment of this city.
I thank you for that, because it really wasn't for you, and I'm not sure who told you that, because I didn't tell you that. But I thank you, I do, because a lot of work went into this, and I appreciate that, but I'm just a little heartbroken right now, that's all.
Can you tell us from whom the understanding came that this report was part of what was holding up money for artists?
And just based on what I've reviewed as part of the investigation. In terms of the investigation of financial issues and HR issues. And I don't think that there was a clear direction, but I mean, I've been practicing for 28 years, and I certainly understand if there are some questions out there and it's somehow connected to the efficacy of what's going on, that I needed to finish my job as soon as I possibly could and do it to the best of my ability, to the extent that that is any reason to slow down the process that you're going through. So I don't think it was an explicit direction, but it's certainly an interpretation that I have that the sooner that I finish doing what I've been tasked to do, the better it helps in terms of that timeline.
Commissioner Reverdy.
Yes. Let's turn on the light. First of all, thank you, Attorney Wright, for your report. Let me sort of say I echo Commissioner Love's comments and everything else, because this is a staff meeting. I think that there are some things, and I came on board late January, that I need to make some issues. But one thing I need to correct is I wasn't clear that this was necessary for the artist funding. I will say that. That was never anything that I understood. That's the first thing. I understood that there were issues that we need to deal with, but that was not it. But I think we've got 3 things here that we've got to deal with, and whether we like it or not, they're all interrelated. Even everybody wants to silo them. I think you've connected them. Thank you for that. And that is that we have an MHC report that we need to understand and be involved in. We have this report. We have the issues of July and August votes that predate me. And then we have other issues around the director, because it's on the agenda that we need to deal with. I thought this was a three-legged stool. This is a square table with four legs. And I want to say that they're not disconnected. They're interconnected. I'm about process and about doing the right thing and making sure that we take transparent actions. But I think we need to take them on a level that makes good sense. Some of this stuff belongs with HR. With bringing a report back to us as commissioners, we're an oversight body. I'm sorry, we need to make decisions about policy and other issues, not day-to-day operations. Having been a director in an organization, four of them, for more than 40 years, my role and the role of my commissioners was pretty clear. We had issues that came up. We had personality issues. We had a whole lot of stuff. I know what's going on. So I know I've been there and done that. I think we just need to be transparent, be sure that we're acting with due diligence on every issue, and then make an informed decision. The fact that we had an oversight meeting scheduled today that was suddenly changed to a full call board commission concerns me as well. What is the rush? The rush is to deal with the issues related to funding for artists. I agree. And then to look at some of these other issues and figure out how we do that, and how we do that in a concerned manner that's fair to everyone, but more importantly, fair to the arts and the arts community in Nashville. Thank you.
Yes, you might.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but I certainly concur with my fellow commissioners. Now, I spend my day-to-day awake hours at Tennessee State University. And one of the things we try to get across to our students is internationalization. It's understanding and respecting people of other cultures. In today's business world, that's what employers are looking for. They're looking for global citizens. They're looking for people who work as teams. They're looking for people who have skill sets in certain areas. But more importantly, they're looking for people who accept others. We're teaching our students to embrace our differences. We're teaching our students to recognize our commonalities. And reading your report, which Attorney Wright, this was an amazing report. And yes, we got it under 24 hours. And yes, I was up at 4:30 this morning reading it and trying to analyze it in preparation for today's meeting. But the bottom line, at least to me, is that we needed more onboarding. We needed more training. We needed to get the staff. You're hiring somebody from a different culture. We need to understand that culture. And this works both ways. Director Singh is coming from a different culture, and he may have been in a position like this before. I don't know, because I didn't read his resume. But he stepping into this role would have been prepared for his audience, for his team, for his staff, and the staff made preparation for him. I think that was a disconnect. I think that was left out. I think if we had more, and I blame HR a little bit for this, for not getting people more in tune to what they were expecting, they wouldn't have such disparities. Because from this report, what I am seeing is that it's a misunderstanding. It's a cultural difference being thrown at some people that they weren't ready to accept. And some of the things may be very minor, but they may have very deep impressions. Even in my office at work, I have phrases that I would say, and I started with a disclaimer. If I say something that offends you, let me know, because it's not intentional. I might come across very nonchalant to me, and it's very deep rooted with my audience. So I try to understand. I am from another culture as well, and I help them understand me as I work to understand them. And I think that is really the base of what all of this is. And Commissioner Love said it. We really feel like we're in a staff meeting. This feels like an HR onboarding session, where we're now going to ask people, well, what offended you and how can we fix it? And directors saying, how do you better state this so that someone is not offended by what you're trying to accomplish? At the end of the day, I think everybody's here for the artists. I'm here in Nashville because of its cosmopolitan way. I love this city because I can walk around and see so many different cultures. I am from a country where so many cultures work hand in hand. For those of you who don't know, Trinidad and Tobago, shout out. But that's what I saw a little bit of here in Nashville. And what I'm hearing today is this disconnect, and I'm praying that we can get this resolved very amicably and move on to the matter at hand, which is getting money to the artists. Thank you.
Well, and I'm not sure if that was a question directed toward me, but I would like to say what I can say definitively is, as the investigator, I did not find that anyone had a passion for anything other than doing right by artists across the board. I think that's the desire that everybody that I talk to, Director Singh included, certainly has. I think, and that's why I started with sort of that background issue. I think the heaviness, I think the lack of alignment, I think the failure to articulate what the mission and strategy and all of that is, definitely in communications, perceptions in the workplace, precisely as you have indicated. And I think that's part of the issue, and this is what I say in my training when you're doing anti-racism work. Like, you got to go a step or two beyond, and everybody involved in that process has got to be on the same page, because you'll get to that kind of end when folks are not really certain how to approach these particular issues, and then especially when you're dealing with so many talented people that are hanging in the balance. And I noted in my report that in many instances, staff members, and I think Director Singh included, feel caught in the middle of what's going on right now. And I think that's important context for that report as well.
Commissioner Lakovitz.
Thank you for your work on this and for taking the time. And I want to say that particularly the care with which in your report you described the tension between the anti-racism and the DEI work was like so helpful as a frame, and I think it put words to something that I didn't know how to describe. So I just want to thank you for that. And I think too, I appreciated also, this is more an appreciation for this. I appreciated the way that you talked about the long history of this organization, which he's had a long history, right, of trying to expand equity and access to funds for artists. But we continue to see, to me, the lack of attention or focus on internal practices means that these external practices are always going to be vulnerable. And that is my concern. We can talk or not talk about how the meeting transitioned. I'm chair of the Oversight Committee, and I think there were a lot of different things going on. And part of my request or ask was for additional support at what has been a difficult time, and to ask that we consider ways to support the organization, because it has been a difficult few weeks, and just to acknowledge that. So I just want to say that the intent was good.
Thank you so much for your report. I feel like I need to say something, but I think I'm going to say I don't have much to say right now. I heard the public. I read emails. I'm trying to do my best as the chair and working as a team. We're a huge team that is including 3 different parts: the commissioners, the staff, the community, and the artists that are being, all the artists that are engaged, and it's very challenging for all of us. It's easy for all of us, and we're very vulnerable to fall into hurting each other and taking actions and making actions that hurt each other, or say things that hurt each other's in the practice. And because it's green. It's challenging because we are in different settings. The staff is working in a different setting, and the commission and the community. So I guess I just want to say that and acknowledge that it's challenged, that we are a whole team, and at the end we just need to distribute these funds in an equitable way. So I'm just gonna ask and tell myself that whatever we do moving forward from this second, action or words, whatever, is just towards that goal. Sorry, go ahead.
So, Mr. Wright, thank you for the report, the very thorough report. And this isn't as much to you as it is to the rest of this commissioners. I don't think there's anything we can do with this report today. I think it's fair to ask Director Singh, give him a reasonable amount of time to respond, and then have another public meeting where he's able to respond. It has never been my understanding that Mr. Wright's report had anything to do with money being released. Rather, that has been Director of Finance and their audit. And I think that it is our responsibility. I also heard from the audience that it sounds that some people think that we actually have the power to flick a switch and make money flow. And I just want to be clear that if we have that power, it certainly hasn't been granted to me. I do think it is within our power, though, to somehow coerce the finance department to move at lightning speed. Somehow, that has to be possible. We also need to begin to work with the mayor's office and potentially commissioners to work on some sort of budget appropriation in case there is a shortfall, which we don't even know that at this point. If there is, we still need to find money to pay for that and not necessarily use artist money. And I think those are the only 2 things that we can do to get the money to artists as quickly as possible. So to that end, we need to be able to somehow get the finance director's office to move more quickly, and 2, reach out to the mayor and council members about a potential appropriation if there is in fact a budget shortfall.
And let me just say, although I don't think your question was directed toward me, because I want to make sure that I'm 100% clear. I saw my report mentioned in the same memo with audits and everything, and so that sends a message to me that I need to get my house in order and act as quickly as possible so that I am not in any way a hold up to that process. I want to make it clear that I didn't have that explicit direction. That's what I intuited, because what I was doing was mentioned in the same breath as some other things that I think are tied to the release of funds. And I wanted to make sure I didn't hold up that process.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. And maybe that was one of the finance director's criteria for releasing the money, but I don't know that that was really articulated to the council, at least very clearly. Commissioners,
and that's what I was making clear. That wasn't articulated to me. That was probably surmising because it was mentioned in the same time that those other pieces were mentioned, and I wanted to make sure that I got my piece done as quickly as I could.
We are greatly appreciative to you and your speediness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nashville.
Since we are in a staff meeting, let's address how we move forward with the staff, and it comes from this. I understand from Mr. Wright's report, there's still a lot of chaos, feeling of chaos within the office. And I've heard from staff members that we're not sure what to do in this moment. So my question is there something that this commission can do to help the staff on the day-to-day while we work our way through this process?
It feels that we're moving to the item. Just want to say that we are on item D.
Okay. May I be excused? Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, following the comment, we're now moving to item E. And that's aside of the director's employment, director's absence, and staff support.
And just to offer context following up on what I said before, the concern was the last few weeks in the midst of a lot of information that the director's absence was also having an impact on the staff, and how, as we, to follow up on your question, could support the staff during the director's absence, because the work of the commission goes on, right? We have public art that has to go out, and the grants committee. So absent information, I was seeking clarity about how to move forward in support, and not supervision, but providing structure, and that ways we could support the director and the staff during this time.
Anybody else has a comment on this item?
Chair Perez, can I respond?
You may.
So I sent you an email on Thursday that I'm able to start work today working remotely, and I've submitted the paperwork for that. So I'm here to support the commission and staff as much as I can in every step of the way, and I'm fully committed to Metro Arts. I still believe in this vision of driving an equitable and vibrant community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that, Director Singh. There's a concern that, as I understand it, you've applied for FMLA leave, and as a commission, we're not sure how to work through that legally. We're working on it. It is our understanding. It is our understanding, and I have some knowledge about FMLAs, and I'm an attorney, but not much. It's our understanding that that when an applicant makes a request for FMLA leave, that the employer, which I guess is us.
No, the employer is Metro.
Okay, I'm happy with that. It is my understanding that whoever the employer, whoever controls that, makes that decision, cannot permit the applicant to work while he or she is on FMLA leave. And we're not sure of the status of that. I mean, we want your support. We want your leadership. But we're kind of in a weird area right now.
If I may, let me speak up real quick, because I think we're getting ready to wander off into a place we don't need to be in the public eye.
Yes.
I have done this work for 40 years. I do not want to violate anyone's rights, but I do think that we're moving too far in the process about issues that we should not, and that we should delegate the function to the executive committee to meet with HR to figure out what's going on real quick and move forward. And when I say quick, I mean within the next 48 hours, and that Oversight should get involved in this as quickly as possible. I'm about process, and what we're talking about is the issues and trying to solve them. I think we need to be policymakers and put together some policies that we want in place, whether they're temporary or permanent, and that we charge whoever with doing day to day, and that we function in that. But that the executive committee probably needs to do this, because I certainly don't want to do it in the public view. I think we're dangerously on an issue that's an HR issue, and I'm not HR. I'm a commissioner. Policy and making decisions about funding are the things that are our primary issues, and I think that's what we need to do. And if I have to make a motion and see how it rolls, I'm ready to make a motion.
Let's do a motion.
I make a motion that we meet with HR about HR issues relative to whether it's this report or others, and get that done, and that the chair can either do it through executive committee or some other specially designated committee as soon as possible.
I second that.
Second?
Yes.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Is that for oversight or for?
I think maybe Metro Legal should weigh in on whether that's legal.
I wanted to just say one thing as far as the sorry.
You want to go to the microphone, yeah, please. Or you can go to the podium, whatever you want.
I just had one comment about having the executive committee have a conversation with HR. The only conversations the commission can have outside the public are executive sessions with your attorney. There's not, under Tennessee state law, an executive committee that can meet with HR. So I just wanted to make sure that, but I know that there was confusion about Director Singh applied for FMLA, and then now it's not clear. I don't know if he's withdrawing it or not. I understand why there's confusion. I guess that perhaps we should let him speak with HR directly and clarify that issue instead of having it be in a public meeting. Might be best.
That's all I wanted to do as well.
Okay. Do we still do the motion?
I'll withdraw my motion and put forth a motion that this be clarified between Director Singh and HR as quickly as possible as to his status, and that all of the issues related to him be put on hold until we can get an answer.
All right. Thank you. I believe Commissioner Nashville.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. Motion withdrawn.
Before we leave that topic, though.
There's another motion on the table.
She withdrew it.
I made another motion. That we have Director Singh meet with HR to clarify the issues, and that we move forward with an answer back to us from whoever, whether it's legal or HR, and that we put on hold all of the issues with respect to the director's status and everything else in item E.
I'm comfortable seconding that as long as there's a time limit involved and we're doing
48
it legally.
hours.
And it's legal.
Yeah, 48 hours. Somebody will tell them whether it's legal or not, and we'll know that. I think our motion is legal because I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. That's what the attorney said. And we can make we can move the motion and see what happens, and then they can tell us.
Okay. We're in discussion. Anybody?
I wanted to make a comment, and that is on the discussion part. We have here the director's employment, director's absence, and staff support. And right now we seem to be focused on the FMLA request and the status of the director, which is the first part of what we're supposed to talk about, and the director's absence. And what I heard is that he proposes to work remotely. The third consideration is the staff. And what I heard from Luther today is the staff is really hurting and they don't have direction. And I think that also needs to be a part of this 48 hours. How are we going to have the staff supported when they actually have some claims that have been found to be meritorious? And I get the sense that all is not copacetic between the staff and the director. And that's a bad thing to have happen. The staff needs to be supported. Director Singh needs to let us know clarity. And that's my comment right now. I do think in whatever's done in 48 hours, we need to have a path going forward from HR or whoever. How do we have a staff work with somebody that they filed complaints against? You just don't wash the linen and come out with a report and say it's all gone away.
If you will allow me, I will amend that because I forgot about staff support. The other two, we started with the director's comments, so that's why I made that. And that we do that. And I think all of this needs to go back to oversight for something. And this is really a short string within 3 48 hours to get something from HR and for Oversight to do its job, because that was our function, was to look at all of the factors on that and make sure that we have something in place.
Director, do you have something to say?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because FMLA is a significant legal issue as well as a management issue, I would like to ask, with the chair's permission, for Tim Garrett, the attorney who has been retained to advise this commission on FMLA issues, about certain questions that have arisen.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if we do that, we're in a hearing about these issues, and that's not something I'm willing to do as a commissioner today, all due respect to legal. I think we want to get things clarified at the lowest possible level, come back to us, and let us work as commissioners on oversight and the things to correct, if possible, the issues outlined about any things that may be going on, whether they're meritorious or non-meritorious, but to make sure they're fair and they're transparent, whatever we're doing. We're also in the press, folks. Somebody sent me 2 or 3 articles this morning. I'm concerned that, we're looking like a circus up in here.
I hear you, Commissioner Woods, and we're not going to be able to grant the space today.
I call the question.
What was that?
I call the question.
We need to vote. Okay.
And that includes what she
Got me
did
more on
to
these.
amend to include staff.
Okay, I need more guidance on
Did you
this, on
second,
what we have
did you
to
second
do.
her amendment?
I haven't seconded anything. I would like to rehear your complete motion.
The initial motion.
Sorry, I have not seconded anything. I would like to rehear your complete motion, please.
The initial motion was for us to put on hold the issue so that everything could be done through HR and come back to us within 48 hours, and that we put everything on hold in item D until we can do that. And then I amended it to say, and we included going back to oversight for them to make some decisions about a preliminary process issues so that we can move forward as a body. And that includes all 3 items on there, whatever those, all 3 items on item E. Thank you.
Again, if we can include probably longer than a 48-hour time frame, but a very short time frame, then I can second.
36 hours.
1 week.
Yeah, we need enough time to at least legally schedule and put the meeting agenda out there. So, yeah, 1 week.
1 week.
I'll second with 1 week.
Yes, please, Lisa.
So it's legal's understanding that there was a motion and a second, and then we had discussion. So Chair, and now we've had a call to question. The motion has been restated. The second has been restated. Due to the call to the question, we need to have a vote.
Okay.
Excuse me. We need a second to the call of the question.
I'll ask that public to please refrain.
Let me clarify. A second to the call of the question, a vote on call of the question, and then a vote on the motion.
Okay. Second to call the question.
Yes, please.
Second.
Vote on call of the question.
All in favor? Aye. Please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? So, motion approved.
No. The call to question was approved.
Call the
Can
question.
someone do it for me?
Now we vote on the motion.
Okay, now we're gonna vote on the motion. Okay, do I have a second?
You already have. All you have to do is ask for ayes and noes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, motion passes.
Abstentions? Motion approved. Oh my God.
Madam Chair, I know that we are not up to date on. I was going to see if we could just hear what briefly they were going to say about FMLA. You don't want to hear it? Okay. Don't hear it.
We're going to move to item E, item F. Okay.
Madam Chair, could I move for item F and G to kind of be combined? I think, Chris, you had one statement or clarification you wanted to make. Okay, so she had a clarification, then we can go right into the just brief update.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Before I begin, I want to take this time to personally acknowledge the Metro Art staff. Thank you for showing up each day. I see you while facing intimidation, libel, attacks on your reputation. I see your persistent dedication to advocating for local artists and nonprofit organizations. I stand in this with you guys, and I appreciate you. I want to also clarify on the statement that I made at the February 26th special call meeting. During this meeting, I defended the salary savings are not to be used for contractor, temporary services, and consultant expenses. However, in the event of salary savings is to be utilized, departments must make sure that the amount available in salary savings is the max threshold that can be expended for contractors, temporary savings, temporary services, and consultant expenses. However, for example, this is an example, if there is an available amount of about $250,000 in salary savings after all salary obligations have been made, projected to be paid throughout the rest of that fiscal year, then the max amount that can be utilized for other expenses. Keep in mind, although it is not prohibited, it's also not recommended that salary savings be used for contractor, temporary services, and consultant pay. These expenses should be paid for with budgeted amounts allocated specifically for management consulting, temporary services. In the event salary savings is to be utilized, requests must be approved from our budget analyst prior to utilizing any salary savings. As I continue to do reconciliation research on Metro Arts accounting and finances, I want you to know that I'm working with staff, Metro Finance, legal to ensure that all I's are dotted, all T's are crossed. But I also want to double down and mention that I'll always stand on the side of truth, especially with supported facts. I'll continue to strive on delivering transparency, accountability by any means necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioner Lefkowitz.
So, budget and oversight, I believe that we've already talked a little bit about the future kind of role in oversight as it relates to the next step and process. I do want to emphasize that as chair of oversight, I've been working with or encouraging staff, which I know they have done, as Chris has already said, to provide the commission with updated budgets and financial reports. So she's working hard to learn the system and get things moved and in order so that we can have, alongside the audit, a complete internal picture of financial reports, which I know is something that we as a commission want. In terms of administrative oversight too, I did want to mention this as it might relate to something we would talk about again, but in terms of the ability to provide ongoing support, I know that staff met last week with Andrea Blackman, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, and Roselle Jones, the Workforce Diversity Manager. They facilitated a helpful conversation with staff, and I just want to say that as oversight members, we may want to put that forward, as I believe that they might be willing to continue to work on these issues with staff and the director. I can't speak for them, but I feel hopeful about that as a possibility. Everything else, I think the questions that the commissioners sent prior to the previous meeting, I've compiled those and have sent them to finance, who are working on an FAQ. And then we're also working, by we I mean me, on some updates that we can provide you around and Thrive in particular, the way that individual artists have been funded. And so that is as a way to kind of protect that funding. So that's what we can talk about next time as well.
I don't want us to finish the meeting without mentioning the MHRC.
Oh, shoot. Report. I totally forgot about that. Sorry about that. MHRC, thank you. So in terms of the MHRC meeting last Monday, you did receive the full report and a link to watch the meeting. I know that several commissioners were able to attend in person. There were 4 recommendations in the MHRC report, and some things in those recommendations can inform our next step as well. We have been provided outside counsel to advise the commission on this matter, and there will be a public hearing, which I understand is yet to be scheduled, at which time we can hear more from the parties that are involved. And Metro Finance is working to provide the audit, which is a piece that is indicated as necessary, and to provide us with a complete understanding of our finances. And so we do have questions as an oversight committee in response to this report, thinking about how should this body respond to the actions of individual commissioners, what's the legal path forward and what the ethical path forward is, what is the role of this committee, the oversight committee, in supporting the commission as a whole in moving towards a solution, and what steps can we recommend in terms of governance, policies, and procedures to ensure that this does not repeat.
I have a question. I don't know who is to answer this question, but on the MHRC report that there were 4 recommendations listed, and one of them is the public hearing. I don't know exactly who takes the first step to schedule this, or
I believe the MHRC schedules. Is that right, Ashley?
Okay.
Reverend Tucker.
And Reverend Tucker.
So we're just
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're just waiting to hear. Okay.
Yes, our commission voted unanimously to hold it, and in the process of scheduling it now.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this item?
When is the next date for our oversight and budget meeting? Because I think that that is a critical piece of the process.
We had a week, right? A week from today at this time. So that's Monday, March 18th at noon.
Okay, I'm kind of still on the report and the 4 recommendations, and I know we are over time, but at least for me, I just want to have some clarity on the next steps. I now know I have that clear about the hearing, but then the other recommendation, one of the others, is that the funding model be established by the Arts Commission and approved by Metro Council to ensure the future allocation of taxpayer funds will be distributed equitable. And I guess that's also the question that I'm going to finish in a second is also applies for the Title VI complaints be awarded initial grant amounts, and also the Metro City staff requests that the commission move to convene a public hearing. Oh, I already said that. But it's basically what's next and how we can move, and also for the people to hear about this.
I will also say there is a grants committee meeting that is the first meeting of the newly formed grants committee, at which I would expect that would come up.
And I believe there is some work already.
Yes, there's some work being done already.
Being done on that. Okay. Okay. I don't have any other question about these. Thank you so much for your report, Heather. And that was the last item on the agenda.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We also have a call meeting on the calendar that's set for the 28th. Does that need to be changed or kept on calendar? Because at some point, committees can only make recommendations to the full body as to the action to be taken on any of the items we've mentioned. So do we need to keep that on the calendar for the 28th and move forward, or what should we do? And I think that's just an open question, not anything of any sort. But I think that really is something that keeps us on task to make final recommendations or final decisions as a commission body on some things.
Is the idea that we might need to meet sooner than the 28th?
I'm just raising the issues. The 28th, it makes sense to me because we've got two committees working on other issues, but I just want to make sure that we have all of that and we're not trying to do it's on the record at this meeting, so we're not back and forth on emails and confused as to who's calling meetings.
You think we keep the meeting for the 28th?
Agreed.
Yes.
All right. I just want it on a record somewhere, on a public record, not on an email chain. Every once in a while, it pays to do that. Just raising the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? You're green? No? Commissioner McCoy, you're green. I thought you were going to talk. Your microphone is green. Sorry, no, you're not green. The microphone is green. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for today. Again, I do need to move to adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. This is a great team, and also the community. Meeting adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.